The main purpose of Swift Joinery is to minimize the number of steps required to document internal joinery, and to automate as many of the documentation processes required. To achieve this purpose, Swift Joinery integrates all typical joinery element types into the single placed instance of the part. The flexibility in the configuring of this part allows it to be utilized for everything from simple shelving to complex joinery elements incorporating drawers, recesses, overhead cupboards as well, and pantries. Let's take a closer look at the part. In the first window of the user interface, you define the general size, presence of a bench top, its overhangs and the miters of the bench top, and the kick height and indents on each side. In the next window, you define the panels, which are turned on or off, so you can turn on either panel, right, left, rear, bottom, top. The top panel is greyed out unless you turn the bench top off, then you can turn the top panel on. You can also define thickness of the carcass and dimensions of other elements. In the next window, you define the stations, as I have called them. You can have a total of up to 8 stations in the one bank of joinery. Either of these stations can be a door, one of any 3 different configurations of drawer banks, a drawer and door configuration, or a recess. You can control the sizing with the equal widths toggle, or you can turn this off and manually put in the sizing. You can also control door swings, gaps between stations, and finger gaps. With the doors you have options for piano hinge and the open end of the piano. In the next window you define the panel types and handle settings. You have an option of plain, contour, glazed and none. You use the none option when creating simple shelving. In the glazed and contoured option you can nominate the number of vertical and horizontal elements, the border size and the divider between these elements. With the handle you have a series of options for handle types and a series of sizing, angle and positioning options. With the drawer banks, you choose which drawer bank you want to configure. You choose the number of drawers, and using the equal or manually inputting, you define the height of each drawer, positioning of handle and handle type, and also the panel of the drawers. The final column is for the drawer and door option, where you simply define finger gap, drawer height, door finger gap, and whether or not to include shelves. The paneling arrangement of this depends on the paneling arrangement of the drawers and door settings. In the next window, you define your shelving settings. You can have a total of up to 8 shelves. You define the height of these shelves using the usual equal heights toggle or manual inputs. You can also define the height of these shelves using the equal heights toggle combined with the top shelf height and bottom shelf height settings, which will override the shelf heights. You also defined the depth, thickness, supports and support dimensions. Finally, as always with Cadswift library parts, you have a series of 3D and 2D representation settings to define which elements are toggled on and off, pen settings, line settings, material settings, and so on. As with all Cadswift library parts, we try and give you as much control over the configuration in the 2D window. Let's take a look at how this works with this part. You have a series of hotspots. First, at the front, you have hotspots to stretch the width in either direction. You also have hotspots to set the fixed panel sizing on either side. And in the middle, at the front and the back, you can adjust the depth of the cupboard. You also have miter hotspots on either side to set the miters of the cupboards. As you can see, the miters of the bench top are independent, allowing you more control over the configuration. In the next version of this part, we will include hotspots to control these miters as well, and offsets in the 2D. As promised, this tool has been improved to include more hotspots in the 2D to control the configuration. The hotspots that have been added are offset hotspots for each bench side. So here we have right overhang, rear overhang, side overhangs, and of course front overhang. We also have individual hotspots to control the angle of the cupboard and the angle of the overhangs. so that you can very easily configure the benchtop in 2D. With a combination of the flexibility of the configuration of this library part, its ease of use, and the representation of elements such as shelves and door swings in the elevation views, means that creating joinery elements and documenting these elements is fast and easy.